Hello out there in TV land.
Most of the time, I love when my favorite TV shows are very unserious because I watch TV to escape reality, not to have it thrown back in my face. But I do appreciate when the writers use their platforms to talk about real world issues. Do y'all remember the story of Reesie Jackson from Girlfriends? Let's get into it. The episode starts off and we're in a bridal shop because this is the point in the show where Tony was about to marry their doctor. Tony is trying on dresses and she looks very beautiful, and Lynn and Maya are letting her know that, but on the other hand, Joan has something negative to say about every single dress. Joan is junior partner at her law firm and she's one of the most beautiful women that I've ever seen in my life, but that's not very fulfilling for her. Everybody and their mama know that there is one thing that Joan wants more than her next breath, and that's to be married. So it's obvious to see that Tony getting married before her is eating her up on the inside and she's acting very jealous. Maya and Lynn confront her about this. Maya and Lynn tell her to get over it and that she just needs to be there for her friend or she gonna get slapped. Now Maya, Lynn, and Joan are trying on their bridesmaids dresses, and this is when Tony lets them know that she has a surprise for them. She tells them that there's going to be one more bridesmaid. She reveals that it's a woman by the name of Reesie Jackson. Lynn is very excited to hear this, but Joan says, "You've got to be kidding me." And Maya says, "Who the hell is Reesie?" Because you know, Lynn, Tony, and Joan go way back, but Maya just got into the friend group a few years ago. Anywho, Joan says to Tony, "How could you ask the one woman in the world that you know I hate to be a bridesmaid?" And Tony says, "I didn't think after 12 years that you still hated her." Turns out that back in the day, supposedly Reesie stole a man by the name of Brian from Joan, and now she's married to him. Anyways, Joan goes over to Tony and asks her how could she do this. She's like, "You haven't even talked to Reesie since college 12 years ago." But this is when Joan and we find out that Tony still has a relationship with Reesie. She's even the godmother to one of her children, while Lynn is the godmother to the other one. Joan asks Lynn and Tony how could they forget the pact. Then we get a flashback to 91 where Joan is complaining about Reesie. She's telling Tony and Lynn that they should stop being friends with her too, or she might steal their men. And this when they make this "we hate Reesie" pact. We come back to the future where Tony says she couldn't have been a part of that because Reesie was her roommate and Lynn doesn't even remember it. Crazy timing, but then Reesie walks in. Lynn and Tony rush over to greet her, but Joan and Maya linger in the background. Maya understand because she don't know her, but Joan, she's been a little messy. Then Reesie goes over to greet Joan, and Joan looks at her and says, "Let's not pretend now." Then she walks off. Now we're at Joan's house where Reesie barges in. She tells Joan that she's going to be in that win, so they need to deal with this right now. Reesie tells Joan that she can't believe that she still thinks she stole Brian. Then we get two different versions of the same story. We go back to 91 again where we meet this Brian. He showed up to the dorm room and he wanted Joan to go to an MC Hammer concert with him. But Joan told him that she forgot about the concert and that she can't go because she has to lead study group tonight. This is when Reesie shows up and she's dressed real provocative. She tells Brian that she heard he got another ticket and if he take her that he can touch this. Reesie says that Joan got her sounding like some type of hoe. Well, no, I think she said skank, but you know, same thing. We go back to 91 to Reesie's version, and in it, Joan is being a real B-word. She's calling Brian all type of dumb asses, and she basically tells Reesie to just go to the concert with him to get him out of her face. Joan says Reesie would like to believe it happened like that. Reesie says she's getting tired and they are getting nowhere. Joan says, "No, I'm very clear where we're at. You stole my man." Reesie tells her that he wasn't hers to steal, and this is when Joan lets them know that her and Brian were secretly engaged. She tells Reesie that if she hadn't stole him, that she would be the one who's married with 2 kids. Joan tells Reesie, "If it weren't for you, I would be living your happy life." Reesie says, "You want my happy life?" Joan says, "Yes." Reesie says, "You want Brian?" Joan says, "Yes." Then Reesie says, "Okay, you can have Brian and you can have the AIDS he gave me too." A little time goes on and now the women are trying to process the bomb that has just been dropped on them. Joan says she's evil because she yelled at a dying woman, and Maya says that she can't even imagine what Reesie is going through because she has those 2 children. Tony's selfish ass is thinking, "Oh my god, if Reesie actually dies, where are the children going?" Because remember, she's godmother to one of them. Maya says to her, "Tony, that woman is sick and you're over there thinking about how this affects you." And Tony says that she's not good with death or with children. Then this is when Joan decides to say, "Oh my god, you guys, Reesie saved my life." She says that if Reesie hadn't taken Brian from her, that she could have been in Reesie's shoes. Lynn steps in and tells Tony that she needs to get down on her knees and repent, and she tells Joan to stop feeling guilty because that's only another way to make the whole situation about her. She tells them that right now Reesie is very much alive and they need to focus on that, and that they don't need to remind her that she's sick every 5 minutes. But she's not too good at taking her own advice, because in the next scene she's offering Reesie warm blankets and rubbing her feet. Then Tony gives Reesie an apple and Joan comes from the back with a heating pad. Reesie says, okay you guys, enough. Tony says, you can't just drop drama like a life-threatening disease on us and expect us not to react. This is when Reesie tells them that they have a minute, what do they need to know, and Joan asks her if she's okay. Reesie says that she's stable on her meds and that she gets tired sometimes, but overall she feels pretty okay. Lynn asks her if she's HIV positive or does she have full-blown AIDS. She says that she has full-blown AIDS. Maya almost faints. Reesie tells her not to worry because it's not airborne. She says that it can only be transmitted through blood and sexual things. She says, so I think everyone in here is safe. Then Lynn asks her, does she know how Brian got it? And she says yes, from another man. Joan says, oh my god, he couldn't have at least wore a condom. Reesie says that if Brian put condoms in his pocket to go out to cheat on her with another man, then he'll have to admit that he is gay, and according to him, he's not gay. Then Joan decides to apologize to Reesie for holding such a stupid grudge for all of these years. This causes Reesie to also apologize. She admits that she did actually steal Brian from Joan. She says that Brian was fine, and she's like, karma's a bitch, isn't it? Joan tells Reesie not to say that, to not even think that. Now we're in the kitchen where the ladies are having a nice little time chopping it up while Joan and Reesie prepare a meal. They're cracking jokes and all that good stuff. Reesie asks Joan about her new man and Joan says, why, so you can steal him too? Everything is going all fine and dandy until Reesie cuts herself while chopping the vegetables. Joan, Lynn, Maya, and Tony all fly to the other end of the kitchen like they were a pack of roaches and somebody just turned the lights on. Seeing how they all reacted, Reesie quickly jumps into action. She says it's okay guys. She goes over and she grabs the trash can and she says all you have to do is throw away the vegetables and throw away the cutting board. She even adds in a joke and says now all we have to do is burn down the kitchen, but ain't nobody else joking right now. They all sit there and stare at their lady in an uncomfortable silence until she says, well, can somebody at least get me a band-aid? Then Lynn asks what should they do about that knife, and this is when Joan rushes over and says just throw it away. Reesie tells Joan that she doesn't need to throw the knife away, she just has to wash it, but Joan isn't letting up. She's like, it's okay, it's an old knife, just throw it away. Reesie says, look, you can check with the CDC. Once the virus hits the air, it's dead. And she tells Joan if it'll make you feel better, you can put it in the dishwasher too. Now we're back at the bridal shop where the girls walk in on Joan pretending to get married. Then Tony comes from the back to show off another wedding dress, and this time Joan is actually being a good friend. She looks at Tony and she says, oh, you look so beautiful. And Reesie says you do, and she starts crying. She says that seeing Tony in that wedding dress made her think of her own daughter and how she's not sure if she's going to be here to see her daughter get married. All of the girls quickly rush over to her and give her some encouraging words. Joan tells her, no, I just got my good friend back, you're not going anywhere. And Maya says, yeah girl, because you got them kids. Then Tony's messy ass says, yeah girl, you don't need to worry about your daughter right now. It's Joan we don't know if we're going to live to see get married. Now we're back at Joan's place where she's having an internal battle with herself. She opens her dishwasher and she sees the knife that Reesie cut herself with sitting in it alone. At first she grabs the knife and she throws it away. Then she gets the knife out of the trash can and she washes it off and places it back with all of the other knives. And that's basically how that episode ends, but it's not the end of Reesie's storyline. Reesie does show up again a few episodes later. She's a part of a documentary that Lynn is making about the AIDS epidemic against black women. We learn more about how Reesie is truly feeling deeply on the inside. Then we see her again at Lynn's premiere of the documentary. Then towards the end of that episode, we see Lynn and it looks like she's editing the documentary again. She's on Reesie's part and Reesie is basically talking about how much she has to live for. She's talking about her friends and her family and her children. She says that she has a wedding to attend in a few weeks. She says that she isn't going anywhere, that she's too cute for that. She says that she has so many more moments to catch. But sadly, the episode does end with Reesie dying. I guess it happened within those weeks because when we do get to the episodes of Tony's wedding, Reesie is not there. I'm pretty sure the writers just killed her character for shock value and they did their job because I was very shocked when I watched this episode for the first time. The pearls were definitely clutched. But anyways, then the episode does end with a slideshow of a few black women who really lost their lives to AIDS. Characters in episodes like this are very valuable because it gets real out there in those streets.